What do you mean?
All right, the new file is started.
Synthaholics.
All right. Welcome to Synthaholics. Thank you so much for downloading this episode. Today we are on chapter, I believe, 16 of Dune. We have myself, Aaron O'Brien, and Dave Duncan. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Aaron O'Brien.
That's your Duke Leto's voice, eh?
Duke Leto, he's kind of important in this chapter. Not trying to stroke my ego or anything.
He is. Leto, do you have would you consider yourself to be sardonic?
That and epileptic. Definitely might have some narcolepsy going on.
Narcolepsy too?
I take speed constantly.
Oh, gee, I know, right? I just can't keep my eyes open.
My son, he's so boring.
So we have the beginning of this chapter, or this is the chapter we have this big banquet, this big dining experience between all the big well-to-do bigwigs on Arrakis. And the little opening quote says, "Greatness is a transitory experience. It is never consistent. It depends in part upon the myth-making imagination of humankind. The person who experienced greatness must have a feeling for the myth he is in. He must reflect what is projected upon him, and must have a strong sense of the sardonic. This is what uncouples him from the belief of his own pretensions. The sardonic is all that permits him from to move within himself. Without this quality, even occasional greatness will destroy a man." So this is in the sayings of Muad'Dib. So basically, you have to have kind of a cynical or kind of make fun of things a little bit when you find yourself in the actual myth itself. You can't take it too seriously.
And that's how we are at Synthaholics. We don't take things too seriously.
That's for sure. Don't look for highbrow humor here. You're not going to find it.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. So we start off now with the chapter in the dining hall of the Arakan Great House, and we get the old bull's head and the old Duke. So they finally got up on that wall. So Shadout Mapes finally got it up there.
Yeah, Shadout Mapes. We just, I just put it up like Diddy Jessica said we had to do. Uh-huh.
Shadout Mapes, did you get that up with a ladder, or how'd you get it up there?
You know how many people it takes to screw in a light bulb on Arrakis?
How many Fremen does it take to screw in a light bulb?
12 lattice.
12 lattice. Are you just stacking them like Yertle the turtle?
Yeah, well, we only have steps to here on Arrakis, We got like the 3 steps apiece.
Nice. So they have the old Duke and the bloody horns of the black bull that killed him hanging up in there, and so we get the beginning of the chapter is the Duke entering into this banquet that's going to take place, and he's still just thinking about death. He's thinking about how he could be poisoned, and he said, and he thinks to himself. Actually, you want to read this?
Mm-hmm.
He says, all of a pattern, he thought, you can plumb us by our language to precise and delicate delineations for ways to administer treacherous death. Will someone try churmurky tonight, a poison in the drink, or will it be kermas, a poison in the food? He shook his head. So now he's thinking about death already, like, how will I be killed?
Dr. Kynes thinks about it a lot, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. So, so he enters in and he sees that what we have here is the the Fremen, or I guess the house servants, are setting up this thing where when you go in to dine, the guests are supposed to wash their hands in this bowl, and then they're supposed to take the towels and dry their towels off and throw it on the floor. And then
what? Maybe we should not do this practice anymore, okay?
Well, and then we take the towels and we take them out to the beggars outside, and the beggars squeeze out the towels for whatever moisture they can get out of those towels.
It just doesn't seem very humane, okay? So can we not, please?
So Leto's like we're gonna stop this tradition. This is a gross tradition. I don't like it. And then he realizes that one of the servants are probably like getting a little bit of money from just squeezing out those little.
Shadout Mapes, I need this money from my drippings.
She doesn't get paid very much. Lady Jessica doesn't pay her very much.
Lady Jessica and Duke Leto, they don't pay me nothing. I gotta squeeze the money out of the squeeze water.
The squeeze water. So
we don't name things very eloquently on Arrakis, okay?
The squeeze water.
Squeeze water.
So he basically makes a ducal decree right away. It's like, we ain't doing this anymore, and they're pretty upset that he made this decision. They don't like that.
Duke Leto is becoming less popular than Baron Harkonnen somehow.
I know. So somehow, from kindness, people think that he's like the worst person ever. And then from there, he goes into the Great Hall, and there's Jessica, and she's standing in the group, and he sees that. Remember that still suit manufacturer that makes those bad still suits? Those
That's
Walmart
just
still
his
suits?
name. He's the still suit manufacturer.
Yeah, his no name.
he's only
there's only
referred
like
to
a
as
few
that.
people. There's only a few people that actually given a names in all this. So it's pretty funny.
It's like you couldn't have called him Bob, the still suit manufacturer, and then you just referred to Bob.
Hey, Bob.
No, the still suit manufacturer. He writes that every single time. You'd think he'd make it easier on himself.
Right. So there's the still suit, the crappy still suit manufacturer. There's electronic equipment importer, which is mentioned, and this is the only time this person's mentioned, and that's it. A water shipper whose Summers mansion it was near the polar ice cap factory, and a representative of the Guild Bank. So, and these are all
cool, Gurney.
And then there's a dealer in replacement parts of spice mining equipment, and a thin, hard-faced woman whose escort service for off-planet visitors reportedly operate as a cover for various smuggling, spying, and black market operations.
I mean, Shadout Mapes is one of the most premier escorts we got,
So, and then also brings out that most of the women in the hall seem cast from a specific type, decorative, precisely turned out, an odd mingling of untouchable sensuousnness. So they're all like well-to-do women.
Yeah. I want to see Shadout Mapes try to fit in.
Get out of here, Shadout Mapes! She just kept on trying to get into the...
She tries to show some leg, but it's all wrinkly and falling apart.
Flesh is falling off her leg.
Well, she lives on a hot planet. She's probably mostly cooked. The meat just falls right off the bone.
It's so bad. Anyways, so yeah. Also in there, so we have Duncan Idaho's back. So he was out with the Fremen, out with Stilgar, and they must have called him back already. So, and he's supposed to be watching Jessica. So he's sort of like going to be keeping eyes on it. Because remember, a couple chapters back, Thufir was suspicious of Jessica being the traitor, and so he puts they put Duncan Idaho as sort of like to watch over her, So that's the thing. Also, Paul's there. Paul's there with a bunch of young group of Arakan rich ladies. Or girls, should I say, younger ladies. So, and they're all like, "Oh, Paul, you're so handsome." And she's sort of like, he hates it.
Poor Paul. All these women fawning over him.
I know, it's gotta be hard. It's gotta be hard.
Being a 15-year-old with all these women trying to get you.
Right. Yeah. So they got that going on. So there's all these people, and And then we get into this whole thing where, so the Duke approaches Jessica and the group that she's with, and there's one of the, I think it's the water shipper, is talking about how they're stopping that custom with the towels. And the Duke basically says, as far as I'm concerned, the old custom ends now. And the man goes, is that a ducal order, my lord? And
if you must consider it, sir.
He says, and the Duke says, you leave that to your own conscience. And then he sees Dr. Kynes walk in. Hey, guys, I brought the vino.
Yeah, that's very kind of you, Doctor. Very kind of you, Dr. Kynes.
So, yeah, we get Dr. Kynes is in the house now. And then we get this strange thing. So Dr. Kynes meets Jessica, and he's kind of like paying attention to what she has to say, and then there's this moment where he says to her, he goes, she brings up the Quizahatarak, but he says it the shortening of the way. So that means Quizahatarak. That's a translation of Quizahatarak, and nobody else hears this but Jessica.
She's looking out for it.
Oh, especially in this chapter, is very important that the Bene Gesserit training for Jessica and Paul is like paramount here, because they are reading everybody's inflections and telling, like, Paul tells when people is lying, so Jessica picks up on it, but Paul seems more attuned to a lot of things.
And Paul knows when women are just trying to sleep with him to kill him versus just actually trying to sleep with him. And he he especially doesn't like the ones that don't want to kill him for some reason.
I want to keep with those.
The ones that want to kill him seem way more interesting to him.
Right. So, and then we go into this whole thing. Just before that, they're talking with this water shipper, Lingar Bruit, and he's like kind of like out. Even when the Harkonnens ruled Arrakis, he was kind of outside their rule because he was just so powerful. Because he's this powerful water shipper. Because water's so important on Arrakis.
Ice pirates,
exactly.
So many things can fit into this universe.
I know.
Get the ice pirates.
You could put the ice pirates in this universe for sure if they weren't so goofy. So Bruit kind of is also interested if the Duke was planning to put some weather control system on the planet, because obviously his powers, his investments in water, and then there's like saying, well, you might have to diversify your wealth now. You can't just be water. And so
let's just terraform Arrakis. We don't want sand anymore.
Even though water basically kills worms, so
no.
So anyways, so they head into after a little banter back and forth, they head into the dining hall, and they all walk in and they sit down, and Paul is sitting next to a young woman, a little bit taller than him, and she is the daughter of the father who makes those Walmart still suits.
The good old Walmart brand.
Yeah, exactly.
True value still suits.
Right. So, and then says there's another man, and that was invited that the Duke's not aware of. And he says, who's the man with a scarf face ahead of Paul? Because when they're walking in, he goes, as his late addition, Jessica says, Gurney arranged to invite a smuggler. And he goes, Gurney arranged it. And he's basically, this is like a powerful smuggler, and his name is Esmar Tuat. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, sounds fine to me. I don't remember how it's said in the audiobook.
So,
we can call him David Bowie.
What's that?
We should just call him David Bowie.
Why would we call him that? David
You said
Bowie?
he had like the scarf around his neck. I'm like, maybe I think of David Bowie.
No, it was a scar, not a scarf.
Oh, a scar. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. It would be funny if it was David Bowie. We ain't gonna talk about Judy. We're just not gonna bring her up.
Maybe Jodorowsky's Dune, he could have been David Bowie.
I think Bowie was too young for Jodorowsky's Dune, but maybe maybe it would just been very, very young David Bowie. So anyway, at first the Duke's a little kind of pissed off that this person is invited, but he says he's kind of a good person to get to know, and he's a good guy to be around now, because it kind of will upset the order here because they're seeing this guy here, and the smuggler has strong ties with Dr. Kynes through the Fremen. So, but Jessica says that the smuggler will sow doubt and suspicion just by his presence, So they're kind of like just playing mind tricks, even on the people that they're with. So
always fucking with them. Two can play at this game.
So they all get ready to sit down, and then the Duke stands to give a toast. And they have to sort of like follow what the Duke does. This is kind of like protocol. So he's going to raise his flagon of water to give a toast. And did you find his quote here?
In the olden times?
Well, this is
and it was the duty of for the. I'll read it in his. I don't know if that's what you're meaning. Like, this is what I thought, because he's like, Gurney, give us a tune.
Right. That was just yeah. I mean, that's part of it, right? Yeah. But first he goes like he says, "I'll give a toast," and they all grasp their flags. And he first yells, "Here I am, and here I remain." He barks, and he puts
here I remain,
and says, "My toast is of those maxims so dear to our hearts. Business makes progress, fortune passes everywhere." And he sips the water,
and then he slams it down, and water drips out, and people like. Look very upset.
Yes, and he goes, and Gurney's off in the corner, and he says, "Gurney, give us a tune." And he plays a minor chord, so it's kind of a sad song. And this is where the Duke, still standing, this is his quote.
In olden times, it was the duty of the host to entertain guests of his own talents. I cannot sing, but I give you words of Gurney's song. Consider it another toast. A toast to all who died to bring us this situation, okay?
Yeah, right.
Review, friends, troops long past review. All to the freight weight of pains and dollars their spirits wear our silver collars. Review, friends, troops long past review. Each a dot of time without pretense or guile. With them passes the loot of fortune. Review, friends, troops long past review. When our time ends, it is Rictus smile. We pass the tune of fortune.
So, and his voice trails off in the last line, and then he takes a drink from his flagon and slams on the table, like you said, and the others drink in embarrassing silence. So he's basically saying, like, how many people died and made sacrifices for us all to be here, you know? So we're on the backs of other people, and so so after that, and people are kind of freaked out, and he does this other thing where he goes and pours his water onto the floor, and everyone's kind of freaked out, because it's like basically just taking money and just like hundreds of dollars, thousands maybe, and just pouring it onto the floor.
We gotta make room for wine, okay?
And so there, and everyone's like freaked out, like everybody doesn't want to do this. The only one who doesn't listen to the Duke is Dr. Kynes, is taking his water and pouring it into another container under his coat.
Dr. Kynes is great.
And the Jessica sees him, and Kynes sees that Jessica sees him, and just basically goes, "Yep, I'm doing this." Yeah. So everyone's kind of like thinking, like, "Oh man, the Duke's unhinged." So they're kind of freaked out by that, by his, just his actions and his words. So then we get this whole thing where when they're sitting down the dinner, and the still food suit manufacturer keeps on complimenting the meals, and he keeps on.
Can I get that recipe?
Can I get that recipe?
Can I get the recipe for the good still suit?
It's superb, simply superb. And they like it too, because it's a Kaladin meal, and there isn't a hint of melange spice in the meal. So they're sort of like, "Wow, this is like a treat." So
something that doesn't taste like cinnamon, huh? I make cinnamon rolls all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Everything's made of cinnamon rolls. Oh, it's got to be gross.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Cinnamon coffee.
I know. So
cinnamon hamburgers.
Cinnamon sauerkraut.
Cinnamon spaghetti. Cinnamon ravioli.
Anyways, talking about the old Kynes there, the guild banker goes to Kynes says, "I understand, Kynes, another factory crawler is lost to a worm." So already news has got there, and Duke's like, "Well, the news travels fast." And so that's another thing that Duke is still kind of pissed off, that the factory crawler got destroyed by that worm. And they keep asking,
my face, why don't you, huh?
I know. Anyway, so there's the whole thing of that, and obviously he's kind of pissed off by the whole thing, and they keep on making into this whole like the Bene Gesserits are looking at how everyone is being how everyone communicates and how they talk, and Jessica realizes the guild banker has a cadence in the speech that he's tried to lose but still there, that he's from Giedi Prime, so he is a Harkonnen operative. So
how do they talk?
I don't know, but anyway, that's the she realizes that this speech pattern, and that this guy is is probably working with the Harkonnens.
He's a real stand-up guy,
right? So, and then she's even thinking to herself, does that mean the guild has taken a side, the banking guild taken a side against the House Atreides? So now she's kind of like upset by all this, and So then they get in this whole thing with the banker starts talking about the birds of Arrakis and how most of them are carrion eaters and they drink blood. And they start talking how the banker is called Susu. So the girl, the girl that's sitting next to Paul, who's the Walmart still suit manufacturer's daughter, is like saying like, "Oh, Susu, you say the most disgusting things." And so Susu is something that water peddlers say. They say Susu, something like that, for selling their water. It was mentioned earlier in the some of the earlier chapters. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so they're all having a little laugh that he's nicknamed Susu for some reason. I don't know why. And then they go.
He gets the name. Oh, he's not the still suit manufacturer. That's good.
No. This is the banker.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying. He gets a name.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Some people don't get names.
So he says, and Paul says to him, so do you mean that all birds are cannibals? And then they're like, the banker's like, that's weird. Why would you say that? And says just that merely that birds drink blood. And says it. And Paul kind of argues back. Remember, Paul's like 14, 15 years old. And he says, that's not an odd question. And they get into this whole thing where the banker's kind of pissed off at Paul for kind of challenging him, and then Dr. Kynes says it's the rule of ecology. It's the rule of ecology, he says, that the young master appears to understand quite well. The struggle between life elements is a struggle for free energy of a system. Blood's an efficient energy source. So
blood's mostly water, you know.
And then the banker's like, it's said that the freemen scum drink the blood of their dead. And then Kynes answers back, not the blood, sir, but all men's water ultimately belongs to his people, his tribe. It's a necessity when you live near the Great Flat. All water is precious there, and human body is composed of some 70% water by weight. A dead man surely no longer requires water. So basically they take the person's water and they just suck it out of them somehow, and they give him back to their people. So you get to drink, grandma's water.
Grandma's blood and her urine and her feces. The shit and piss are processed of thigh pads.
And then he says to the banker says, you've associated so long with the Fremen that you've lost all sensibilities, the banker says. And Kynes looked at him calmly, studied the pale, trembling face, and says, are you challenging me, sir? And the banker kind of freezes, and he says, of course not. I'd not so insult our host and hostess. So, like, all of a sudden, like, they realize that everyone, like, this guy is terrified of what Kynes can do. And Kynes says, a host and hostess are quite capable of deciding themselves when they've been insulted. They're brave people who understand the defense of honor. We all may attest to their courage by the fact they are here now on Arrakis. So he compliments the Atreides for just being there, and then the Kynes kind of like looks at the banker like, well, what do you want to do? And then the banker's like, I meant no offense. If offense was taken, please accept my apologies. And Kynes just kind of calmly goes, freely given, freely accepted. And smiles at Jessica and just goes back to eating. So he was ready to take out the banker.
Man, Dr. Kynes is gonna cut somebody.
Yeah, and then Jessica sees that the smuggler had all of a sudden relaxed too. So the smuggler was ready to jump to his defense too, I suppose. So and that Kynes would have just killed the banker without hesitation. So anyways,
badass.
anyway, so they go on eating, and they still talk about a lot of the ecology of the planet and how things are. What was it? Kind says something. His water is at least. It says Kind's talking about the ecology of the water, and he says water is at least is the least favorable condition of life in Arrakis. And remember that growth itself can produce unfavorable conditions unless it's treated with extreme care. And Jessica senses a hidden message in Dr. Kind's words, and the word growth. And she says, "Do you mean that Arrakis can have an orderly cycle of water to sustain human life under more favorable conditions?" And then the water importer is like, "Impossible! That can't happen." And then finally, they break down that Kynes has been doing some experiments on that. And they basically, if they had just a little bit of water, like 3% of green plant element on Arrakis involved forming carbon compounds and foodstuff, we could start a cyclical system, Kynes says. So that's a possibility.
Life could thrive on Arrakis.
Life could find a way.
Life finds a way.
So, anyway, so from there they go on to let's see, where are we here? But a lot of people don't think that there's enough water to sustain that life. And Kynes, they kind of start hammering down Kynes, like, is there enough water on Arrakis to do that? Is there? And Kynes doesn't want to answer, and Kynes kind of puts down his head and says, like, it's possible, basically, So and they realize that he's hiding something. Like, Paul realizes that he's hiding the fact that there might be more water on Arrakis than we know.
Ooh, let's get some water.
Get some water, yeah. Let's open a water park, Dad.
Yeah.
Water slides.
Don't they basically have a water park that everyone's mad that they have anyway?
The conservatory they mentioned in the beginning, because they got kind of pissed that they're stopping that tradition with the towels. So, and the Duke gets a note that there's something important that calls his attention, and he has to go and take off. So he has Paul sit down in his place, and Gurney sits next down to where Paul was sitting. And so Paul sort of is like, now he's kind of the head of the table at that point. And then the banker wants the water importer Brewitt to give a toast. He says, "Come, Master Brewitt, lead us with a toast. Perhaps you've a dollop of wisdom for the boy who must be treated like a man." So kind of giving Paul a shot there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then Jessica clenched her right hand into a fist beneath the table, and she saw the hand signal pass from Halleck to Idaho, and saw the house troops along the wall move into position of maximum guard. So she's seeing that there's something could happen here, and Brewitt kind of looks at the banker, kind of like pissed off, and and even Paul sees that Gurney's like in a defensive position, so that something's going to happen, And then he says, "Once on Caladan, I saw a body of a drowned fisherman recovered. He," and then the still suit manufacturer daughter says, "Drowned?" And Paul's like, "Yes, immersed in water until dead, drowned." And she goes, "What an interesting way to die."
It's going to be the best way to die ever on Arrakis.
And then the guy continues, "Interesting thing about this man was the wounds on his shoulders, made by another fisherman's claw boots. This fisherman was one of several in the boat on the craft for traveling on the water, was floundering, sank beneath the water. Another fisherman, helping recover the body, said that he had seen marks like this man's wounds several times. They met another drowning fisherman tried to stand up on the poor fellow's shoulders in the attempt to reach the surface, to reach air." And the banker says, "Well, why is that interesting?" And the guy goes, "Because of an observation made by my father at the same time. He said the drowning man who climbs up on the shoulder to save himself is understandable, except when you see it happen in the drawing room." So meaning like when you see it happen in your own living room, somebody's in a lot of trouble. And wow. Paul... Yeah, so this is a dig towards the Duke and the Atreides, that they're the drowning man, and then Paul.
Are you making a drowning man argument? As opposed to a straw man.
And then he says, and I should say it, except when you see it at the dinner table, and a sudden stillness unfolds on the table, and pretty much pisses everybody off. Like they're ready to go, like to fight. And all of a sudden, the smuggler starts laughing. He throws his head back, laughing at the table, and he basically like, I love this dinner. You guys are crazy. The stuff you're saying. So anyway, so that was basically pretty shitty thing to do. So the water merchant is basically saying that the Atreides are drowning. They're dead. They're done for. And
does he know something that everyone else seems to know?
And then Jessica makes this little comment, says, "My son displays a general garment, and you claim it's cut to your fit." And says, "What a fascinating revelation." And she slides her hand to her leg, to her cryst knife, and she's fastened down by her calf. So she's ready to stab this guy.
I'm going to cut someone so bad, they're going to wish they didn't get cut so bad. I'm going to have to kill everyone else in this motherfucking room because no one's allowed to see this thing unsheathed.
And Paul sees when she says that that she's freeing herself for action, and here's the code word garment, which means prepare for violence. So, and then Kyne sees what's happening with Jessica and gives like a subtle hand gesture, like to the smuggler, saying, "Careful, here we're going to go. Something's going to happen." And the smuggler lurches to his feet and lifts his flagon. Says, "I'll give you a toast," he says, "to young Paul Atreides, still a lad by his looks, but a man by his actions." And Jessica's like, "Why are you getting involved in this?" And so people all respond at the table. And Jessica realizes that because Kyne gave him that sign, it was kind of like, do something or we're going to have problems kind of thing. So Jessica chills out there for a second, and then she takes her hand off her knife, and she lifts her cup with Kyne's and everyone else. So anyways.
Price is averted.
Right, just for the moment. And then it says, Halleck says something like, "In society, people shouldn't be quick to take offense. It is frequently suicidal." He looked at the stillsuit manufacturer's daughter beside him. "Don't you think so, miss?" And she's like, "Oh, yes. Yes, I indeed do. There's so much violence. It makes me sick. And a lot of times no offense is meant. But people die anyways. It doesn't make sense." "Indeed it doesn't," Gurney says. And Jessica saw the near perfection of the girl's act and realized that empty-headed little female is not an empty-headed little female. She saw the pattern of the threat and understood that Halleck, too, had detected it, and that she planned to lure Paul with sex, and that she was basically she's a pawn in this game. So they're using the stillsuit manufacturer to try to entrance Paul there.
Oh, I need Paul's recipe for pubic hair.
Oh, jeez. So, and then the banker says, he says, "My lady, I fear I've overindulged your wines, potent drink at the table, and I'm not accustomed to it." So he's kind of like apologizing for everything. And then Jessica says, "When strangers meet, great allowances should be made for differences of custom at training." So kind of like calm things down. So anyways, from there, we started then talking about deep in the desert, how they have soaks and sip wells. And so soaks are areas that are like place you can dig to get water. And then sip wells are literally like straws stuck in the ground that you can go and start drinking water out of the earth. So
hope no one shat in this one.
Yeah, right. And
peed down the hole. You.
And that's what Kynes is saying that, and it says, but Kynes says that they're all wild rumors, and not to pay any attention. But Paul realizes right away that he's lying, so he knows that Kynes is lying about something. So again, he picks up on Kynes lying about all sorts of things with his Bene Gesserit training. Just gets a message back that says the Harkonnens tried to get the shipment of laser guns. We captured them. This means they've succeeded with other shipments. And it certainly means they don't place much store in shields. Take appropriate precautions. And so Jessica starts thinking about the laser guns. And apparently the laser guns can just like, when they hit a shield, they have an explosive reaction that could be sort of like an atomic bomb going off.
So, like, shields don't help you, and you're both screwed. Right.
So you're both going to die. And Paul makes, but the note says, crisis averted, nothing to worry about, everything's fine. And Paul says, It says, "I never doubt we'd find." Oh, because he says that what took took him away was that they found the carryall. One of the smugglers found the carryall. Some Harkonnen agent tried to sabotage the carryall that destroyed that was missing when the factory crawler was destroyed. And then even Jessica makes a comment that soon we're going to get all these Harkonnen agents and we're going to snuff them out. And she looks right at the banker at this point. And
no, she didn't.
But with the laser gun thing, all the things that she knows and Paul doesn't. And Paul says, "I never doubted we'd find the carryall. Once my father moves to solve a problem, he solves it. This is a fact that the Harkonnens are beginning to discover." And Jessica thinks he's boasting. He shouldn't boast. No person be sleeping. He says, "No person who will be sleeping far below the ground level this night, as a precaution against laser guns, has the right to boast."
That's my boy. He's always standing up for me.
And that's where we end off this chapter here. A lot of things going on, a lot of politics, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of threats, subtle threats, and subtle things said to each other. A lot of these characters we won't see again.
Oh, you mean the stilt suit manufacturer's not going to come back again in a big bad way?
We won't get him, unfortunately.
What? What about the still suits manufacturer's daughter's best friend's cousin?
No, she ain't coming back either. There's a lot of people. It's strange they didn't give them names. Some of them barely say anything. I think the still suits like escort or wife. She's says something for a second. She's not hungry, and it's just really odd. There's a lot of weird interactions on the table. So it's a full table, and there's a lot of things. But basically, it's mostly the banker trying to sow discord among everybody. So
yeah, this was I don't know, it seemed like it would be a boring chapter on the outset. They're just sitting down to dinner and I don't know, but it just got really tense, and it was really good.
It was a very tense, yeah.
And it just seems like I felt like the scene was super boring in the movie.
Yeah, right.
Both of them, the Sci-Fi Channel one is just I don't know.
Well, there wasn't a big scene in the Lynch movie. I don't remember the Sci-Fi one version of this.
I think that's where I wanted to gouge my eyes out, because everyone had these awful none of the costumes matched at all. They looked like they were made by different costume designers. It was just so bad looking. I feel like that was the scene, and that I don't remember it being tense in that movie at all. God, it was just weird. Just hard to look at. But yeah, I can see this scene probably doesn't translate the film as well, because
it's very
the book's
boring,
explaining
people are just talking. Yeah.
Well, but the book's also explaining what everyone's doing, and they're worried something's going to happen. If you haven't read the book and you don't know the subtext of what's going on, then you don't really know what's going on. So
right, exactly. So. Yeah. A lot of interesting things, but basically we're still getting the Duke. He's still thinking about death constantly.
I wonder if Bert and Ernie going to kill me.
Hey, Bert.
Yeah.
But you got that, and also he comes off, and I think he was doing it kind of on purpose with the whole toasting, but just to seem completely unhinged.
Well, he's trying to act like he thinks Jessica's betraying him the entire time. So he's
too, yeah.
So he's trying to be unhinged, because he's like, I know she's not betraying me, but I got to act just like a total jackass, because the prevailing theory is that she's trying to kill me. Right,
exactly. And then obviously we find out, the banker's working with the Harkonnens. But that's more of just everyone's working against the Duke, and everyone has their own agendas, and they're all jockeying for power. At some you have the water merchant. Even the still suit manufacturer's daughter is working somehow with the banker, and coaching each other through their back and forth. There's some kind of alliance there, so it's really bizarre. So there's a big conspiracy going on in Arrakis all together against the Atreides, set in motion basically by the Harkonnens, and I guess ultimately by the Emperor too. So
oh yeah, it's it's a web of stuff happening, and it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing, like I said, I don't know, I've never read the book before, so I just it's exciting going through and seeing how it unfolds, and it's definitely good sci-fi so far. So I'm impressed, and a dinner scene being as tense as this was pretty well done. Good job, Frank Herbert.
Yeah, it's very, very well written, and it's very, for a dinner scene with a bunch of nobles and like rich, well-to-do people. He played up the political back and forth banter very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I've joined some Dune Facebook groups, which we've been posting some of these episodes in, and I just like I see posts where people are talking about some of the books, and some people are like, "Oh, the first one's the best book," and like even all the other ones by Frank Herbert like maybe aren't as good as the original Dune. So like, and some people say like the stuff by his son and Kevin Anderson aren't that good. I don't know. I'm interested to see like how it goes because I mean. I like Kevin J. Anderson. He wrote some of my favorite Star Wars books, so I'm hoping they'll be good. They'll be pretty good. But I mean, I'm sure everyone's got their own opinions and whatnot. But
right.
so it's just interesting seeing what people's takes are on the books and which ones are their favorite.
Right. Well, next chapter we get to Duncan Idaho being drunk,
Being drunk and trying to score a hose.
and we get some more. I guess look into the treachery and traitors that Atreides are facing and looking for. So, but we'll find that next week. So for everything else, if you have different thoughts or corrections or anything that we might have missed, you can always contact us. You can email us at our email at synthaholics@yahoo.com. You can hit us up on our Facebook page, Facebook.com/groups/Synthaholics. We'd love to hear from you there. And also you can tweet us at Twitter at Synthaholic Duo. That's our handle there. If the show is something you want to support, please go to our Patreon.com/Synthaholics, and we appreciate any donation. And next week it's going to be a little drunk with Duncan Idaho.
Oh yeah, be sure to bring your spice booze.
Spice beer.
Yes.
Pumpkin spice beer.
That's how it goes.
So, all right, guys. Until next week, the spice must flow.
Dune Worms out.
It's big 50 million miles aside of Mars. Well, McCoy, my boy, come mix me a drink. Before the night's over, I'll puke in the sink, and we'll cry till we laugh, and we'll both shit our pants. You're the best drinking friend